studying abroad is no more a luxury.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a luxury anymore. There are a lot of scholarships available for international students, especially when we consider Germany. They offer 100% scholarships. If a student is from scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, the Tamil Nadu government is almost giving 35 lakhs. Canada and Australia are two countries who they offer extensive support in terms of studying as well as getting a permanent residentship. Clear the examination rather than doing something or creating themselves in an innovative manner. It's all exam-driven model. But however, if you see in a foreign country, it is not like that. They'll try to kindle their curiosity. Right now, there's a big rush for AI, data science, cloud computing, cyber security. All these are top trending options for students. To us, like, it is just not about admissions. It is all about a service that we provide in terms of not volume but value.
Welcome the New Indian Express audience. We are here with Devi Priya, the founder of Sri Ramanuja Intellect Service. So we are excited to dive into the conversation and learn more about the trends, challenges and opportunities and global educations. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you please begin by introducing yourself? What started with this abroad education? Which path?
So I am Devi Priya, CEO and founder of Sri Ramanuja Intellect Services. We are into career guidance and study abroad services since 2016 in Pondicherry, based out of Tamil Nadu. And we've been with a very strong foundation in science and passion towards student mentorship. The journey of overseas education began over a decade ago, like where we started a mission embarking and empowering students, and we also guide them towards the right career path. So that is where it started. Over the years, we found a very glaring gap between how the Taiwan cities, where the students have a very strong foundation for structured guidance and they are very motivated to international careers. But however, when you consider about Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, though there are a lot of youngsters and talented individuals, but they lack a lot of awareness, and also they lack a lot of guidance and motivation towards international careers. That inspired us to start this kind of a journey in the international era. So my husband, Mr. Dinagaran, is a managing director of our organization. Together, we bring in both structure and soul into our business. So we both together in this thing. And to us, like, it is just not about admissions. It is all about a service that we provide in terms of not volume but value.
Okay. So what inspired you to choose this education sector, specifically this abroad education?
My entry into this education field was purely organic and truly motivating. I started my career as a study abroad counselor based out of a consultancy in Chennai back in 2007. So that time there were a large number of students who were all trying to go abroad, and all that were sent by that particular consultancy only. So what we did, like, I was put up in the main corporate office and I was actually dealing with the students hands-on, and I was the front end in terms of solving student queries and all that. Since they were the major players in sending students to major countries like UK, USA and all that. So I was there witnessing how the right guidance could shape someone's career and they can transform it to a trajectory of the life of the individual. So that is how the passion started. And then eventually I was also working, I was working as a marketing supervisor in a UK based company. I was into the international role where managing India, UAE and Africa. This experience gave an insight on how international careers are just not about academics. It is all about how, someone getting shaped with a lot of skills, what they have, and also the career readiness and international mobility. This is how it evolves in the future. So from there, with all these experiences and passion, what we thought, like, we should be starting an organization into study abroad where we have to make students very passionate about international careers. On one side, if you see, there's a lot of gap between what these guys are really talented are, and they don't know how to identify themselves. On the other hand, they are very, they have a lot of aspiration towards international careers too. So we wanted to start a consultancy and organization where we can bridge all these gaps between, so that it could transform their lives to the betterment.
In the recent years, we have seen a race of students opting abroad universities. What do you think the reason behind it?
There were only two instances. An Indian parent is more emotionally attached, and one is probably getting their child into the right education. Another one is getting them married. So they spend a lot for education and weddings. So this is actually an emotional part for every Indian parent, though they are like middle classes or above or whatever it could be. They're all like prone to be giving them a successful future. And earlier before, due to the lack of awareness and all that, they didn't know it was all about luxury. When someone wants to study abroad and all that, it was just a luxury part. But right now, it's not like that, because every middle class parents, when they have the enough knowledge, and when their family, one of their family members are being abroad and all that, they think, okay, this is an option where the children can get into a lot of international careers. So day by day, this industry is grooming a lot.
Do the families really are courageous to send their students to abroad even after the COVID period?
Yes. During the period of COVID, the student, whatever they are studying here in India, they're all going to be like basics in terms of theoretical knowledge. But however, these companies were expecting in terms of like practical and all that. There was a gap, and every individual parent who was having a kind of an idea, they thought, okay, this should be the right move, and we have to start sending our children to foreign countries to bridge the gap and get them equipped. That's how it started. And right now, if you see, every country has an Indian office here. Every university has started promoting their programs in India, because they know, like, in foreign, since I've been, working with a lot of foreign countries, there, for example, if someone is in UK and they don't prefer, like when they are in the 18, 19 years or something like that, they don't prefer to do an undergrad, or they won't probably doing a master either. But however, in India, degree is something very, which is very essential for a family, or in a society, it is considered to be a very prestigious thing. So there, we would definitely do an undergrad, and many families are now prone to do their master degrees as well. So that is how it all started. And now at the moment, there are a lot of parents who are sending their children even for undergrad degrees as well.
So, like, particularly, do you see a different trend for UG, PG, and PhD in the abroad education?
So let me take it one by one. For undergrad, mostly if you see, students from Taiwan cities, okay, Taiwan cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai and all that, like Bangalore and all that, there are a lot of awarenesses, one side. On the other hand, some way or the other, the parents have a connection, either a relative or a friend being in a foreign country. So this had impacted them so much, and they already had been thinking about going abroad and doing something. And if you see, most of these schools, the children from these top tier schools, students from CBSE, International Baccalaureate and all that, they've already been exposed to all these tourism. Like they go to foreign countries for a tour. Okay, so they've already been exposed to different countries from their childhood. So what happens, there's always a passion that had kindled them inside. So I would definitely want to say a scenario here. One of my student was from Bangalore. And I asked her, like, why do you want to study abroad, and why her aspiration was to get into Australia. And I asked her, why do you want to do that? And she says, ma'am, I've been to Australia almost thrice since my age of 10 for tourist purposes. And more than, I've traveled to almost like 10 plus countries, right from my childhood. But however, I felt Australia to be a very safe and secure nation. And also there are a lot of technology. That is how, students have started thinking from the Taiwan cities. So once they are well informed and they have their planned decisions, the parents and the children go for undergrad itself. Okay. But however, students from the tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities especially, they go land up in a moderate institution in India. They complete their undergrad, and eventually they think there is a gap between employment and the skills what they have, and eventually they think of doing something abroad and get themselves hands-on and probably progress their career from there on. So from tier 2 and tier 3, most of them are looking into master's education. However, in PhDs, if you see, it is not a tangible admission, I should say. For example, if someone has already completed their master's, and immediately if they are looking into or considering a PhD application, they may not be able to directly apply for a particular intake, because there is no intake as such. Okay, so for example, you are a research professor, and if I find you as my mentor, I should keep writing emails to you. I should send my research proposal to you. And then eventually, when my area of interest and your work in your laboratory coincide with each other, only then they are going to be hiring us. But however, there will be a big gap. Why I say a big gap is because, every time finding the right professor would be a big challenge. Getting your email ID would be a big challenge. However, when I write an email and send you a research proposal, it still considers to be a spam, because you don't know me. However, in terms of having quite experience, like 10 or 15 years of experience, this will be very extensive because they might find us in LinkedIn. And already when we have a kind of sound research, prospects in our profile, then probably they might consider us. So PhD and PDFs are like that. So it is very specific to profiles.
Yeah.
It is not for everyone.
Is there, like, could you help us the difference between the academic experience between the abroad education and the Indian education system?
Certainly. So when you consider top institutes like IIT and IIMs India, we have a very good infrastructure. And when I call infrastructure, it is all an integration of how the labs are, how the facilities there are, and how the resources are well equipped. But in terms of foreign education, and here getting into institutions like IIT and IIM are very, very competitive, and many of the students are having that kind of fear. Though they have a lot of talent and potential towards getting into these institutions, they have a lot of aversion towards applying itself. Will I be eligible? Will my profile be suitable and all that? They have a lot of questions. However, the foreign educations, on the contrary, every institutions have their own well-equipped laboratories, and they have their smart classrooms, and they have their curriculum integrated to the industry. They collaborate themselves with the industry people. So easily doing something, with the industry would be more possible in terms of such international degrees. That's why students prefer, curriculum based on foreign degrees rather than India. The most significant thing is our curriculum is mostly theoretical based. And we are, for example, a lecturer or a faculty here in any colleges, if you see in India, they all teach them. They struggle themselves to, impart all the knowledge to the children, all the students. And however, the students fail to accept all the knowledge from the faculties or teachers. And during the point of examination, it is all exam born.
Okay.
Yeah. So every student would want to try and clear the examination rather than doing something or creating themselves in an innovative manner. It's all exam driven model. So what happens, teachers, when they find out, okay, the student is not good or something, they start giving the important questions. This is how the Indian curriculum are mostly into. But however, if you see in a foreign country, it is not like that. On a contrary, they'll try to kindle their curiosity. And they'll all be, because students from diverse backgrounds, from different countries are coming and studying together, they'll throw a question and they'll ask them to participate in terms of group discussion, and they'll ask them to give all the insights on how the perspectives from different nations could work. So through that, a collective decisions they'll arrive on, and they'll give a lot of course assignments, course work and assignments. So it is not, everything is not taught theoretically. The students go back and do all their practical assignments, come back, and they present themselves, they learn. That is how the model is totally different in terms of theory and practical. This I could see a major difference where if once a student is interested only, he can be doing it. Rather in India, the students are really pushed to do something, irrespective of their passion.
Yeah. So looking into the ideal profile for studying abroad, like what kind of students generally opt for this studying abroad category? Are they specifically academic or personal traits that make them better suited for it?
Yeah, certainly an experienced profile, because most of them, when they are into top corporate companies, they identify, again, there is a lack of career progression. They are immediately not being able to jump into big careers or a good designation, or more than designations, our Indian talents, they wanted an opportunity, they wanted a responsibility where all these corporate companies are not being able to give them immediately, because there are a lot of other recessions and so many other challenges are taking place inside the companies. So where they wanted such kind of a responsibility and thing, and eventually they think of doing something abroad and they wanted to move into a foreign place.
So as these all play a part in the decision, like, is there, like, how early could they decide for this abroad education?
So we analyze and we assess the student. If we consider them to be very good and independent, we consider them to be sending immediately, and the whole process will take around like 6 to 8 months depending on the country. But however, when we find a student who is really will not be independent, or will be really influenced by others, because there is something like that, because when they are very much influenced by other people, then after going there, that will end up into a lot of struggles and issues. So we assess them in a clear manner, and we tell them, maybe not this year, we can take some more while and we can go for probably next intake. Meanwhile, you get ready with all these aspects. When you ask me the tenure, for example, for USA, it almost takes 1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
Okay.
Because for 2026 fall intake, if you consider, the students should start preparing by now itself, and they have to be doing all of their preparations as such as SAT or TOEFL or IELTS or whatever it could be, GRE, and they should be prepared for the applications which should commence by December.
Okay.
So December to January, February would be the the application period, and then the offer and all that will be rolled out by the universities and sent to the student. So it should be a process of 1 year. Okay, and for certain other countries and all that, like UK and all that, we can still do it within 6 months.
6 months. Okay.
And for countries like France, you can still do it in 4 to 5 months if the funds are ready, because funds play a very significant role. Apart from tuition fee, the student should be having enough living expenses to be there in the country. So there again, when the funds are ready, the process would be quick. But however, when the funds are not ready, then it is going to be taking a longer time.
So how do you help the students to choose the country or a course or a university?
Okay, so we go with a series of framework. For example, when a student walks into our office, we first assess them through their strength, through their weaknesses, and we help them. We analyze whether they are very logical and very creative in nature. In India, if you see, the biggest advantage is 75% of the population are all youngsters. And these 75 population, the biggest drawback is such that they all don't know what they have to be doing in their life. That is a major drawback as well. And all these education systems should have been in such a way that they would have given us all the clarity of what an individual should be very good at. Many a time, for example, Gautam Menon, he did something towards mechanical engineering, and now that he is into film direction, right? So many, if you look into your small circle, there'll be people from different streams and doing something differently. So firstly, we have to analyze what someone is very good at. Many a time, the student themselves won't know whether they are very, whether they would be passionate towards the subject or not. So we have an evaluation, we have a test, we have an assessment to identify what sort of a skill that you are so good at, what kind of a personality that you can play. Because every one of us are distinguished in terms of personality. Okay, the way that you think would be different from the way that I think, right? So it all depends on the decision making, the way we, the value systems are. I normally ask these questions to my students in terms of value system, whether they have their value system as money, leisure, respect, and I get a lot of collective answers, and many of them would go for leisure. There's one student, when we assessed, like he was so good in terms of academic, and he's certainly to be an IIM candidate. Likewise, his knowledge was so good. When I asked him, like, why are you not so motivated? What would you want to, like, why would your parents are so desperate, and they wanted always, they were complaining that he wanted always to be pushed by someone. He will not do anything. When someone is pushing him or doing something early, he does things. Otherwise, he don't. When I asked him, he says, ma'am, I only wanted one thing in life. I wanted leisure. I don't want money. I don't want to do anything except, like, I want to go for a job where it is like Monday to Friday. I don't want to take any big responsibilities. I want to make some money and I want to enjoy my life. And I asked him, like, Saturday, Sunday, what you will do? Like, I play my, I used to play, and I have my PlayStation, PS5 at home. So life is so simple for these youngsters. Though they're very talented on one side, they lack all these things. And for certain other students, they are more responsible. They take a lot of priorities. And eventually, they don't know what they have to be doing. They pick up so many things and they land up confused. So we have an assessment framework to identify what skills they have. And for example, I should say this. Recently, we've had a girl student, and she was from a very nominal university, graduate from a university in Pondicherry. So she came to us and she said, ma'am, I'm a first generation graduate. I wanted to do something big, and this should transform my entire family situation itself. When we consider the entire profile, she was very the right person for brand management. So why we say that is because she was very creative in nature. The way that she thought, everything was towards the creative side. Okay, and she could really value add to that part of the corporate structure. But what she was doing is with the English literature. She did only BA English. Okay. So what we did, like, we did a series of steps. We helped her understand, like, how she can, through her English communication, through probably content writing and so many things together, how she can become a brand manager in the future and how she can value add. Now, this happened like a few years back, like almost 2021. She went into a school, like business school in France, Now she is working for a very big reputed L'Oreal, you know the name, right? L'Oreal, a company from France, and she's almost getting 3,000 euros as package.
Oh.
She's a brand manager now. She used to tell me, ma'am, without you being helping me identify this particular role, definitely I wouldn't have chosen this thing. Now she's very passionate. Money comes automatic. Once you find out like who you are and what you can do and all that, money is like the subordinate. It comes back. It is automatic. So we do that. And for right university, we understand the family requirement. Okay, some students are they are well off. Okay, they wanted they go on a brand. Okay, there are some parents who say, ma'am, I wanted my son to be studying in a most prestigious university because that is all of their society pressure. They wanted them to be in a very big university. So even though they could spend around like 15-20 lakhs, they would want to choose up something with 35-40 lakhs for their master degree. And there are few like universities in Australia, Canada and all that, they charge more than 35 lakhs for 1 year. So almost the tuition fee will be somewhere ranging to 75-80 lakhs in INR. Apart from that, the student should be showing their living expenses also. It will hit up to 1 crore. So for certain family requirements, this is the criteria. On the other hand, a middle classer would want to go up with full scholarship. So there's a gap. So it is all about understanding, analyzing the family requirement and analyzing how the student academics are. Apart from these things, like there's something like area of experience and what the student is really talented all of and what are the curricular and extracurricular activities that the student had did in the past. With all these collective things, we have a framework, we analyze them and we give them choices of 3 to 4 universities. We apply to all of them and after we apply, like we also guide them through the scholarship. Okay, because scholarships are extensive and they're very competitive also in every foreign university. So it is not guaranteed, but we ask the student to apply to scholarships. So we help them, we motivate them in such a way that they all should be applying. So once the scholarships are done, then probably we take them to the next process. Once they get all these things, and we'll pick up from 4, like it is all that we shop with many universities, we collect the off letters, we collect the admissions, and from there we try to pick up the right choices based on the location. Because, for example, when you consider something in Ramanathapuram, it is going to be an outskirt, isn't it? But rather, when you choose something in Bangalore, it's going to be a hotspot. Likewise, location plays a very significant role. When you're in the technical hub, then probably the chances of you getting the right career prospects will be significantly high. So that is how we guide the student. We have a framework for the entire thing.
Okay. How important is the faculty-student interaction and the campus life when choosing a foreign university? So there's a common belief that studying in abroad is only for an affluent. So do you think a middle class student can realistically afford it? How do you guide them through the financial planning and the scholarships, assistantships or part-time jobs there?
Okay, superb. So again, this as I've been telling you earlier, studying abroad is no more a luxury.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a luxury anymore. Many middle class families have started thinking of sending their students to foreign universities. It again depends on helping them know about these options on a prepared manner. And now Indian institutions, like all the Indian universities or colleges, even a small college, are having that welcoming approach to allow us all in, to help them explore all these opportunities, things like that. And if you see, for a middle classer, we again analyze them in terms of academics. When you ask me for scholarships, there are a lot of scholarships available for international students, especially when we consider, Germany. They offer 100% scholarships. And what we do in terms of that is, like, we help the student, guide them right from the 3rd year onwards. Because most of the universities in Germany are public universities, which are called as technical universities. They don't charge anything to the student, even though a local student or an international student. But in order for them to be having that kind of a requirement to be applying, they need to meet out certain criteria. For example, they should be having a very sound academics. In terms of percentages, if you say, or CGPA, it should be more than 8.5.
Okay.
That is an important requirement for someone to be getting 100% scholarship. Okay. Apart from this, they would really be considering what kind of a work that the student had did in that particular area of interest. For example, when a student from computer science is applying to cybersecurity, masters in cybersecurity, they would analyze the entire profile and find out like how many hours of hours that he had particularly spent in that particular area, like cyber security, and what kind of a project that he did, what kind of tools he has almost did in his past. All these things are a collective evaluation for the international universities. They look into all of them. Apart from these two, they also look into the language skills. So English is something which is very mandatory. They ask for either of the two, which is called as IELTS or TOEFL. IELTS in the sense like it is International English Language Testing System, and TOEFL again like test of English as a foreign language. Both these are considered to be the most prestigious competencies for someone to be getting themselves, showing their English proficiency skills. So either of these two that the student should be having. Otherwise, they also should be having something in terms of language competency, because Schengen Union, Germany, they have German language, at least A1 level, where there is like, it is distinguished in A1, A2, B1, B2, C1. There are a lot of levels, intermediate levels. Once a student is at least having up to A1 level, then probably they have a very high, chances of getting themselves applying to all these public universities. So what we do, we take them right from third year onwards, we help them, we guide them, we support them in such a way that they don't even spend even a single penny. While they are considering to go to other countries like UK and all that, they would almost be spending 40 lakhs.
Okay.
We have plenty of success stories like this, because our main target, my main vision is that only. So, it is no longer a area where it shouldn't be accessible to middle class students. They should also dream big, and they should be in a position to pick up the international career. So it is no more a luxury. All these options are available. And recently now, the Tamil Nadu government had given a scholarship called as Adi Dravida Scholarship. And this is very promising, and it is already trending at the moment. Almost like, if a student is from scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, the Tamil Nadu government is almost giving 35 lakhs. Not only Tamil Nadu government, even students from Karnataka have this option, even students from Andhra Pradesh, they have their own entities to this, and they have their own requirements. As simple as that. They should be into this communities. They should be showing their caste certificate. Apart from that, they should be showing the residence certificate. They for example, they are living in Tamil Nadu only. So that kind of those documents are very much essential for them to apply. In that case, the entire tuition fee and the living expenses in the country are all taken care by the Tamil Nadu government. When I should be explaining about these scholarships, I should really mention that there are three parts. One is the national-wide scholarship. Okay, for example, in UK, if you see, the scholarships are available. Something as such as Commonwealth scholarship. Every student who is who are all trying to go study for masters or something, they are eligible for Commonwealth scholarship. And in this Commonwealth, the student should be applying in the month of October. Okay, and they should start writing their developmental essays. They'll ask like, why are you going to be doing this program? And going back to India, what is the value that you will add to your career is what the the questions would be. And the student should be writing a very daring explanation on how these could be integrated together and how he or she can value add in the future. So there are things like that, and where it would cover entire tuition fee and also even the flight cost. But it is very competitive. It is not common for all. It is quite competitive. The decision is purely based on the committee, and they decide and they give it to international students. Apart from that, in UK, if you see, there are location-specific scholarship. So, for example, there are 4 parts in UK, United Kingdom, which is England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. If a student is going to a particular location of Scotland, when he chooses Glasgow or Edinburgh or something like that, the student is prone to apply to something called as Salter Scholarship, which is very specific to Scotland. Okay, so they can apply to that scholarship with, they require minimum 3 years of experience. So likewise, the requirement would change, but there are, location specific scholarships are available. And some universities, in order for them to be promoting their programs, they offer automatic scholarship. For example, they say the fee is 20 lakhs, but however, when they apply within this deadline, they probably can get 3,000 or 4,000 pounds as discounts. So the fee could be like 16 lakhs in INR, something like that. So all these are available for international students, and middle class students, they engage in all these universities which are between 12 to 18 lakhs. And if you see the affluent families, they go for 25 lakhs and above.
So can you tell me about the current trending courses that are students opting in the foreign universities, and what are affordable that equally matches our universities?
Okay, if you consider computer science, Right now there's a big rush for AI, data science, cloud computing, cyber security. All these are top trending options for students. So AI and machine learning stands number one, followed by data science, and few students who are very investigative in nature, they consider to be taking up the cyber security profiles. So apart from this, when you consider EC and EEE graduation, all that, they look into VLSI and embedded systems. But now at the moment, if you see, those are again outdated as well. They are now, there are certain things which are evolving in terms of quantum technology and all about the smart grid and all that. So electric vehicles, towards electric vehicles, there are a lot of advancements in that area too. So when there are certain students who look into all these specializations, and for countries in USA, they take it up a general one, because when you have a very when you're very keen in doing something more specialized, then probably getting into the job prospects would be very limited.
Okay.
So there, the students would consider doing a general program rather than taking up anything as such as specialization.
Okay.
And in terms of MBA, like management program, there are a lot of specializations. So in management, when you consider, so lot of okay. So MBA is exclusively for someone with work experience. They call it as an executive MBA. So executive MBAs are normally for someone who is having a managerial experience of 3-4 years. For example, you work here and you have a managerial experience, and you wanted your company to be paying you high and giving you a top role. And for you to be going to that top management, you need relevant skills, isn't it? So they'll tell you like, oh, why don't you go do an MBA? So you go back and do an executive MBA, come down and apply, where there would be a career progression in terms of salary, in terms of position. So that is called as an executive MBA. But rather, in general, MBA to me as such, there are only two categories of people should be applying to a general MBA. One to be for someone who would be really keen in doing business. And the other category should be like for someone who wants to take up the family business to the next level. Because in Indian ecosystem, the transition is quite not happening. And the entrepreneurs are left alone.
Okay.
Because many a time, the entrepreneurs, if you see, they don't have the next level of succession planning. The children are not coming forward to business, take over business opportunities. So there, when these two situations are there, then someone should be doing a direct MBA. Otherwise, when they are very keen in getting into like top companies like Google, Amazon and all that, into the management roles, they probably be doing kind of specialization. In specializations, if you look into, there are things like strategic management, operation management, supply chain management. All these are specializations where they can get themselves equipped in that particular area. And there are also courses like international finance, international banking. Right now, if you see, all the banks are deploying themselves in different locations globally. Okay, HSBC is actually a UK-based bank, and right now they are positioned themselves in various other countries. So they a candidate to be working there in the place, like they need all this kind of international banking knowledge. Only then they would be, because they will have a lot of NRI customers, right? And international accounting is something very interesting program at the moment under MBA. They have that kind of a specialization there. Because why I say international accounting is because like many companies have evolved themselves in different localities. And they wanted, and someone to be managing in different locations, they wanted to understand the local accounts and accounting, just like as what we have in India, kind of GST and all that. They should be understanding different global expertises in order for them to be working there. So this is how, these are the major trending courses and programs at the moment. For example, Ireland is a very good scope for, computer related subjects. Because in Ireland, if you see, there are a lot of companies like Google, Microsoft, IBM, Adobe, all of them are positioned there. Just like as what we have our engineering institutes here in Chennai, when they have to cater to employment, most of them will be getting deployed to TCS and CTS, isn't it? They are top players, like Taiwan companies. All these students will directly get themselves placements in. Likewise, when a student is more prospective in Ireland, when they have the relevant skills, the doors are open to all the Fortune 500 companies like Google and Amazon. So indirectly, like the aspirations will be big, the knowledge, the skills would be very huge. And one thing I would really want to say, in the future, in another 5 years, certainly there's going to be a big change. Now itself in Google, they've started implementing this. Hereafter, they're not going to be considering any academics. They're not going to be asking you for any degrees or any certificates. Okay, rather they're going to be just testing you for your skills. Irrelevant of your background. So academics, the marks are all just going to be numbers. in the future. It is just going to come up the next level of evolution in the education field. So they are no more going to be asking like whether if you have been able to do a good programming in your area, and if you're able to code properly, all these will be analyzed based on your skill only. They may not be even able to ask whether you have a certificate, whether you have completed your high school. Nothing like that of sort will be matter in the future. So that is how it is going to be all changing in the future.
Okay. Like apart from the academic level of choosing, some students want to immigrate to a nation, permanently settle there. What are the options for you, for them?
Yeah. Relatively, if you see, 50% of the student population who are all opting out to foreign universities, they all consider career prospects. Definitely, for sure, career prospects. Though they can tell the immigration, officers that they're not very keen in settling down there, but the prime reason is for international careers. And half of the population, they wanted to have other residentships in foreign countries. So Canada and Australia are two countries who they offer extensive support in terms of studying as well as getting a permanent residentship. For example, if you go to Canada, 2 years of study and 3 years of stay back, and in 5 years you would be able to apply for your PR. This was the situation, and Indians will find always all the opportunities, right? So there were a lot of people who have applied to this particular part, and right now if you see in Canada, the market is entirely saturated on one side. Another side, like the immigration policies have become so tightened in such a way that they're not giving visas at the moment to if they're not very prospective students, they're not giving them a chance. Otherwise, in Australia, there again, it is a huge landscape. When you compare between India and Australia, Australia is 5 times bigger than Indian landscape. So they have a lot of facilities in terms of technology and engineering and even management. They have a lot of good universities also. There they call it as Group 8 universities. There, if you study there for 2 years, you get a stay back. And stay back again is distinguished in 2 areas. That is, if you study in Sydney, Melbourne, you would be able to get only 2 years of stay back. Okay, the country allows you to be there after studies only 2 years. But however, when you choose places like Perth and Adelaide, okay, outskirt, bit on the outskirt side, when you choose such places, you will be able to get 3 years of stay back.
Okay.
And eventually you will be eligible for permanent residentships. But however, they have their own qualification and qualification criteria as such as how they transform a student visa to a work permit or a PR category, because they have their own requirements. It is not automatic. Definitely it is not automatic. Those days are gone now. So those days when they say, okay, you come in a study visa, you get a PR, all that are gone. Now that you have to show your skills, get yourself deployed, and then take a job and then convert your student visa to the permanent residentship.
Okay. So what's your one golden advice for the students who dream about pursuing their degrees in foreign universities?
This is a very interesting question to me. So I would definitely say, for anybody to choosing up the right career, it shouldn't be just for the sake of money, just for the sake of getting themselves for the pride or the societal pressures. Truly, we should be analyzing and understanding ourselves better and what our personality should be and how we should live a very simple and happy life. We're all here for that particular element, and many a time this is getting deviated, and we're all landing up in with a lot of pressures to say that we have to make more money and take up more responsibilities and all that. So firstly, every student should sit back, analyze themselves and understand their strengths and weaknesses. Without that, taking up any decision, even to a university within India, doing something in India itself is not going to be useless. You have to be understanding what your potentials are, what your true calling is, and what your family requirement is. Once if you're not able to be in understanding all this, go seek an expert. Because way back in the 20 years before, if you see, it is all about the parental decisions. They say, okay, you do this, and that's all. There's no other thing, there's no other conversation left out for an individual. But right now we have a lot of experts like us, like career coaches or people who are into this industry who can help you identify a true passion. Without understanding this, never ever go up doing something abroad. Number 1. Number 2, when you're there in the foreign landscape, it is the responsibility of yours to show up for India, right? So definitely because those companies there will certainly hire you for 2 reasons. Indians are always hard workers, and number 2, trustworthy. And we are considered to be the most trustworthy people ever in the global landscape. For these two reasons, foreign companies will definitely be taking you for the job. So don't ever pressurize something to say, okay, I need a job and all that. Try to develop your skill and try to understand how you can build your competencies equal to how you can develop yourself to the curriculum and adapt yourself and build your profile in LinkedIn. All these things are collective, holistic approach that I should say. If you're not doing all these things, then probably you may not be able to land in a good job prospect. So all these things that you should consider and take a collective decision.
And finally, how do you feel when a student you guided to abroad says, I've made it?
It is really a thrilling experience because to us, it is a personalized guidance and personalized support. If you see in my office, every day or the other, we celebrate things. So celebration in the sense like every single thing, right from the interview preparation or once the student had cleared the interview. And there will be in a lot of twists and turns because when you see they don't get a loan and they call us for certain thing. And when they lack certain, because it is all a part of mood swings and all that, right? Eventually when they achieve this, to me, just getting the visa alone is not success. It is all about how these students are graduating from foreign countries, gaining enough knowledge. And that is where I find myself a lot of thrill, to be honest. Because we see a student from here in India, like when they go out seeking admission, they may not be even able to speak one full sentence in English. But rather when they come up after like 3-4 years from foreign countries, when they come to our office with a lot of gifts, chocolates and all that, when they speak, when they present themselves, when they communicate effectively, it is all a very, it is a kind of experience that what we feel that we are more proud of. Okay, we did something great. Rather than they did something, we did the right thing for them. So that is how we see it, an extensive support and guidance throughout.
Thank you for your insightful thoughts, and it was inspiring to the students who would go for abroad universities. And thank you so much.
Most welcome.